Welcome everybody to another episode of Cooking with Mario. My name is Mario DiMartino. I own the Newburg Deli in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Also on William Penn Highway in Easton. Two great locations. Come on down and see us. Today I got a nice dish for you that could dub one as an appetizer, two as a main entree. Your wife, your kids, your husband, your guests, the party favorite, they're going to love this dish. Everyone makes a variation of this dish. The Chinese make it, the Central Americans make it, Europeans, the Italians, but nobody makes a meatball better than the Swedish people. So when I come back, I'm going to show you how to make the authentic, classic Swedish meatball dish. But now a word from our sponsors, Elias Market, Allentown, Pennsylvania, also in Bethlehem on Linden Street, and we have Corvino and Verwise, Accounting Taxation Problem Services in Wind Gap, Pennsylvania. Be right back to show you how to make this classic dish, Swedish meatballs.
Hi, I'm Joseph Elias, founder of Elias Market, featuring a wide selection of international food items and the freshest produce at the lowest prices.
Elias Markets in Allentown and Bethlehem are filled with an ever-changing variety of just-picked fruits and vegetables, tender meats, fresh seafood, and deli products. Choose from aisles of international and hard-to-find food and household items. But don't take our word for it. Stop in and see for yourself.
IRS problems? Corvino and Verwise, local specialists in tax controversies, has your solution. Save time and money. Never talk to the IRS again. Call today for a free consultation.
Okay, back to the Swedish meatball. You know, everyone likes Italian meatballs, red sauce, but after a while you kind of get tired of that. You want to make a meatball dish that your family will love, that'll change the way they view ground beef and this international cuisine affair that we're trying to complete here. So, the Swedish meatball, it comes in two stages. The first is making the meatball itself. The second is the sauce. It's no different than any other culture, but it's a little complicated, but I think you could do it. There's a lot of gathering of ingredients here, and I'll go through them real quick for you. First of all, you want to have a nice selection of bread filling. You want to have some milk. You want to have some butter, all-purpose flour. We've got beef stock or bouillon base, soy sauce, heavy cream. We'll talk about Worcestershire sauce in a minute. Over here we've got two very critical spices, nutmeg, allspice, already prepared for you. We've got ground pork on the fatty side, and we've got ground beef, 80-20, one egg, one all-purpose white sweet onion, salt and pepper to taste, couple pans, and some beef stock, and a little bit of frying pan there to render off some onions. We'll get started on how to do this. The first thing is you want to find the secret to a good Swedish meatball is the stuffing or the bread filling milky type base that you give the mixture, and I really think that adds to the tenderness of the meatball, and that starts with some good bread stuffing. In this case, I'm taking some stale bread from the deli, a day old, and I'm going to skin it, take all the crusty aspects off the bread. This will be a good portion of our initial mix. The Swedish meatball, goes back a lot of years, several hundred years. And, the Swedes, when you think of, elegant cuisine, or high-end restaurants in New York City, what have you, you don't typically think of Swedish. I think they've really they really haven't given it a lot of notoriety, but they make some awesome dishes, as I've done some research. And this Swedish meatball dish is so popular across the world in every ethnicity that Sweden has determined that June 6th of every year is National Swedish Meatball Day, if you will. And it's their national dish. It's very coveted. There's a lot of ways to make it, but today is very traditional, maybe a slight variation. So we've got that bread, as I've shown you, and we've put it in that fashion there. You can put the rest to the side. You get the picture with that. Our next part of the episode will be that onion factor. We're going to get a basic white all-purpose. Watch your hands. White all-purpose. This probably isn't the best knife for it. I need a nice chef knife. I'll get one over here while I'm at it. I've got that kind of knife. What am I doing here? So you want little tiny fine shreds of the onion as we cross hash it a couple ways. They do a culinary style. You can cut it any way you want. No one's gonna be upset if your onions are, have a little bit of a different shape to them. So we're gonna get these onions. We're gonna caramelize them. Put them right in this hot pan over here. That's where a little bit of that butter comes in. Take a dab. In this case, it's a big dab. Right in that pan there. I was first exposed as a kid to the Swedish meatball sensation, as you were too, on the famous TV show, The Muppets. And there was the Swedish chef everybody remembers, and he talked in the Swedish brogue, if you will, or vernacular, and nobody could really understand him. And I didn't think it was poking fun at him. It was just comical the way they portrayed the Swedish culture. And this Swedish meatball scenario really didn't come to the Western people, we'll call it the States, until like the late 1960s. It came to the States in two ways. One, believe it or not, was the famous, I won't mention their names too much, but the famous do-it-yourself furniture assembling company that popped up all over the country in the late 60s, early 70s, where you bought this Formica type furniture and you brought it home and it's like a modernized kit and you put it together. And believe it or not, they had like a promo because they were from Sweden, and they introduced the Swedish meatball as part of one of their marketing campaigns. And then obviously after that, culinary giants like Julia Childs, she picked up on it and she ran with it, and before you know it, Swedish meatballs, it kind of outdid the traditional European Italian meatball thing in America, and people were having fondue parties all over the country, and they just fell in love with this taste of this gourmet Swedish meatball. Just did this dish a couple days ago for someone in an open house. It went really well, and love this stuff. The Swedish cuisine is fairly a simple cuisine. As we let those onions render off, we'll start to put together our mix. Our mix is going to consist of breadcrumb. There's not a lot of measuring here, so it's kind of like by eyeball, and you'll get the idea of how this works by just experimenting. We're going to add some cream, or in this case some milk, to the breading batter or the filler to give it that mushy substance. It looks a little off in the beginning, but you say, how does all this work? Well, it does, because it's the magic of the ingredients. What you don't see sometimes is where all the secrets are. So we can get a spoon and an egg, and we can mix that mushy base around a little bit, making it not a liquidy, but like a mashy type substance, almost like a slurry. So if you want to add a little bit more milk or cream to it to get it going. A lot of famous people came from Sweden. I don't know if you know that. We got the famed tennis player champion from the 80s, Bjorn Borg. I'm pronouncing his name probably incorrectly. We had the famous actress in the 50s, Anne Margaret, Ingrid Bergman was another one. But I think the most notable Swede and that we would all relate to would be Alfred Nobel, the great engineer, scientist, what have you, from the 19th century, in which we get the Nobel Peace Prize. So there's a lot of great things that come out of Sweden. They even make cars over there. You know that? They got the Volvo and they got the Saab, or you call it the Saab, and two great cars. And they know what they're doing with the engineering, and they got a lot of culture. And it's something we all need to learn more about, because they're really undervalued as a culinary giant in the European world. And I like to experiment more with them and learn more about them, because we get so stuck on our little myopic world of how to cook, whether it's Latino or Italian or even French. We forget about the other cultures. So today is kind of like Swedish Day, and it's a great culture. So we've got the egg mixture, we've got the bread. Now we're going to add the beef. Here you want 80-20. You don't want real lean beef, 90-10, because you're defeating the purpose, because you're going to blend the pork, which is a fattier meat, into the beef to give it that real juicy effect. So in this case, I could put the whole, use your hands in this instance. There's no real cultured way to do this. I'm going to do it the sanitary way because my culinary chef is looking at me. You just gotta do it. And we're going to mix the pork in with it, which is 2-to-1 combination. 1 pound of beef to a half a pound of pork. And that'll get you the right mixture you're looking for. Then you're going to have to add your spices at this point. Your spices are going to be nutmeg. Comes from some kind of a seedy type plant, Central America. It's dried and killed. Nutmeg, about a half a teaspoon. Need to dry my hands there. Allspice. Interesting spice. I often wondered years ago, what is allspice? Is it just a bunch of spices all mixed together? No, it comes from a plant in Jamaica, believe it or not, and it's called the pimenta berry. And the pimenta berry grows on this green leafy bush or tree, and they dry this pimenta berry. And it was first discovered by Columbus on his second voyage to the Americas. And he brought it back to the Queen, if you will, and they dried it and they tried it and they just loved it. So they started calling it Jamaican pepper, and it's really got this unique flavor. Some people substitute the allspice with the Middle Eastern spice, cardamom, and I think it's okay if you're from that region, but the allspice really is the traditional. And that's what you want to stick with. We need salt and pepper, obviously. Every good dish has a little bit of that. Cracked brown is pretty good. Cracked brown pepper. Then we're going to go into the not so pretty part, and that's the massaging of the product. And if you find that your meatballs are a little too moist, maybe in this case they are, you can do one of two things. You can add more of those bread cubes, or you can add some bread crumb. In this case, I think I've got a consistency. It's a little on the pasty side, so I want to add just a little bit of breadcrumb, just some general unseasoned breadcrumb to thicken it up some. You can spoon it at this point probably. There you go. It looks like it's cooperating a little bit. We're getting our pan ready here in the front for the second tier of the meatball configuration. The next ingredient to add is going to be the caramelized onions right in the mix with your ground beef and your pork mixture. Oops, a little stove action going on there. Mix that through nice. You want that caramelized onion juice mix in real good. Okay, so we get some of these plates out of the way. Next effect is going to be putting them in the oven. So you want about 1 ounce on a meatball. You're going to get it. You're going to have hands that are slightly wet, and you're going to keep one hand stationary and the other hand is going to rotate like that, and you're looking for a round 1 ounce meatball effect. They're going to vary in size. So Now you want to make this for dinner and you want to put it over some wide mouth noodles, way to go. I'm making this right now as a kind of an appetizer, but in a dinner fashion. It'll be served with a side dish. And typically in the Swedish culture, they eat a lot of potatoes. It wasn't until the 1950s that rice and pasta and things like that were introduced to the Swedish people in bulk, if you will, or in mass. But a lot of potatoes. They use a lot of berries in their cooking, a lot of cream, lots of wild game. They do wonderful things with wild reindeer, believe it or not. You might not be accustomed to that, but it's really a treat in Sweden to eat that. They made cinnamon buns in Sweden. That's where they originated from. The word smorgasbord in the food world comes from Sweden. A lot of great things come from this country, and we kind of underestimate the historical culinary value of Sweden. So you get the idea of how I want those meatballs to be layered into this Pyrex, if you will. And I had that going. In the interim, we're going to take that and we're going to put it in the oven. Let's assume that's full. I have one already made for you, so we'll get that visual prospect in a few minutes. Now we're working on the roux factor. We're going to get our butter. We're going to get our butter. That's right if you brown it a little bit, because the gravy is brown, if you will. No one's going to be upset, oh, my gravy isn't quite as opaque as I'd like it to be. I never heard that before. A whisk would be in fashion here at this point. Use stainless steel in this process. Don't use a non-stick pan and put metal objects in there. That wouldn't be too good. Simply just add a little bit more butter. You can hold that little butter stick there, work it around. Okay, we're kind of ruining things up a little bit. It just depends on how thick you want it. It's about the consistency you're looking for, maybe just a little bit more. Work it around. Work it around and shake your pan a little bit. Doesn't hurt to do that. I like a brown, buttery consistency. Next thing you're going to do is add your beef stock. We've got some already prepared beef stock into the program. Just add a little bit of time as you need it. Thicken it or thin it. Let it reduce some. In this case, I want to bring a little bit more into the picture. I want my meatballs to really be covered in this brown gravy. Okay. A lot of conjecture over the next ingredient. Some people say Worcestershire sauce from the old country. I'm finding out a lot that the soy sauce, just a little bit, maybe a half a teaspoon, is in order. The soy sauce is rather authentic for the Swedish traditional meatball. Black pepper is another nice little ingredient to there. Salt is already in that soy sauce. If it gets a little thick on you like this, you don't want ultra lumpy gravy. You do want gravy that's movable. And last but not least, as a colorful thickening agent, a little bit of heavy cream. Let that reduce up. Now we're getting that pretty caramel looking gravy that's going to solidify your dish. And as that's working down to its final stages, I want to pull out my pre-made meatballs, Swedish style, that we already have right here. I've cooked them off a little earlier for you. We can gently work them into our base gravy here. Keep the meatball fat out of it, because I find that it makes it too oily. You're going to let them simmer just a little bit. Makes a great party dish, fondue type thing with those long skinny forks and the warmers. You can make them even a little smaller if you're trying to keep the portions low. And as that simmers, we're almost into our final stages of serving up this great dish. You know, I'm going to remove some of this stuff here, wipe down my counter, get my plate ready for that. Swedish meatballs, they really are a treat. I'm so grateful that you could join me on this episode, and I'm going to put it together and show you how to do it traditional style in Sweden. Now typically they have potatoes, so I've got some golden buttered potatoes here with that Swedish meatball. I've got the golden butter potatoes garnished with a little bit of dill, fresh dill. Fresh dill. We're going to plate up Swedish meatballs. Oh my, aren't they just lovely? These will be the talk of your party. You give these to somebody who never had them before, they'll come back and they'll like you. And to finalize it, I've got some lingonberry sauce, if you will, that's typical in this dish and traditional, and it's served a lot sometimes with pickled cucumber, which I've neglected to make for you today because of our time restraints. But I'm going to try one of these meatballs and see how they did in this luscious, creamy brown gravy. Oh, the kids are going to love them. You're just going to want to stay home and dip your bread in it, have these lovely potatoes. And what a hearty meal. I thank God for the Swedish people who give us this great tradition. I'm glad that you came by today and took a look on how to make this simple dish. It takes about 20 minutes, half hour, very economical, and you should add this to your cooking repertoire. This is Mario from the Newburg Deli. I'm so glad you came. I look forward to seeing you next time for another great dish or appetizer or something to wow your guests next time. All the best to you. God bless. You take care.
Hi, I'm Joseph Elias, founder of Elias Market, featuring a wide selection of international food items and the freshest produce at the lowest prices.
Elias Markets in Allentown and Bethlehem are filled with an ever-changing variety of just-picked fruits and vegetables, tender meats, fresh seafood, and deli products. Choose from aisles of international and hard-to-find food and household items. But don't take our word for it. Stop in and see for yourself.
IRS problems? Corvino and Verwise, local specialists in tax controversies, has your solution. Save time and money. Never talk to the IRS again. Call today for a free consultation.
Today's product is the deep dish French crust baguette pizza. So I take these personal pans here, I line them with a little bit of shortening, if you will, and I take this secret dough recipe. I can't really share it with you. You're going to kind of have to figure it out yourself, but when you figure it out, it'll work great for you. You're going to take the dough and you're going to make it room temperature after you've made it and proofed it and kneaded it. You're going to put it in this little 8-inch pizza shell, pardon me, pizza case, and then we're going to gently roll that pizza in that round case, and this keeps it formed. You don't have to go through the whole gyrations of being, you know, Joe New York City pizza flipper. You could be Susie Homemaker. Have fun with this product. Okay, the first one is we're going to make the German pizza. Now the German pizza is not really from Germany. The folklore has it that back in 1948 or 49, there was a bar on the south side of Easton, Pennsylvania, Northampton County, and they used to serve great cheesesteaks. And in that process, they also had little, pizzas in the back room. And this fella came in who was an Italian. He was a local Pennsylvania Dutchman, and he said, "Hey, Guido," that I'm assuming that's the shop owner's name. He said, "What's the probability of you putting some cheesesteak, in your pizza?" And he said, "Well, I never heard that before." We said, "Well, give it a try." So they took a little cheesesteak meat, and they sauteed it up with some steak, a little fried onions, okay? And they worked it. Then they came back and they made a traditional pizza where they got the pizza shell, or in that case, it's probably a large New York style pizza. They put a little base of cheese first. Little base of cheese. Then they got the bistecca. They went in with the bistecca. You want very tender, high-grade steak to make this product. We do this at the Deli, and people are really raving about the quality of this introductory product. We go back to a little bit more mozzarella cheese. It just makes everything taste good, mozzarella. Okay? One of the secret ingredients on this is, believe it or not, is these banana peppers. Now they come large rings. I don't like it when they're large, so I make them a little fine. I'm kind of into the, pardon the pun, the finery of things. So I put the banana peppers diced real fine. I go back to the raw onion factor again. Got to have that raw onion in there. Don't worry about, the pungentness of raw onion. The oven will cook it off. It'll make it nice. Okay? And then after that, a little bit of seasoning. And she is ready to go right in the oven. Our first little product. Look how fast that was to make that at the Newburg Deli. Our second pizza, folks, is going to be the bruschetta pizza. We're going to make the bruschetta pizza. And it's kind of like a white pie in that it's devoid of a red sauce. In this case over here, I had the red sauce for the first German pizza, which is really a crushed tomato. You want to make it salsa alla crude, meaning you want raw sauce. That's a secret to a good pizza sauce. Never cook a pizza sauce. You kill it. And you don't want all these green Christmas tree herbs and everything in there. Keep it very light. A little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar. Key ingredient, dry basil, very lightly in there. So as we make this next pizza, we're going to put that in the pan. We're going to try to, again, roll it up and make that crust for this bruschetta. The bruschetta pizza incorporates a couple other things that we didn't do in the German, and that was we put a base of beautiful olive oil on the bottom. You don't have to really rub it through, just make it generically in there. And then we're going to give it a small base of the mozzarella. Very easy pizza to make. Small base of the mozzarella. The secret ingredient here is the ricotta, okay? Fresh ricotta. I use this one brand around here I just love. Okay, basil is our key. That's our next ingredient on this secret bruschetta pizza. Fresh basil. Don't forget our fresh diced tomatoes that are in there. Fresh diced tomatoes. Be generous with the tomatoes because we're lacking a sauce. We need some sort of hydration, liquid product in there, if you will, to take away the heavy starchiness of the product. Okay, now we're going to get this little trusty jigger here that I have, if I can get it loose, and that's got that fresh pulverized garlic. I mean, that's really a key there. Fresh pulverized garlic. Finely diced onions that I had prepared for this pizza. A little bit of a secret ingredient. Right here is this, my chefs at the restaurant call this the kiss of Mario. It's this Newburg Deli oil. It's organic. It's from Avellino, Italy. I put it on everything. I just love it. It just zips up the flavor and every little bit of organic oil, special seasoning, SPG combination like that. And folks, she is literally ready for the oven such as this. Okay, folks, now for the final step, we're going to take out that removed pizza from the 8-inch deep crust shell tray, and we're gonna plate up some pizza real quick. Okay, the first one's that German pizza. Look how pretty that came out, folks. Isn't that nice looking? The next one's coming out is that famous bruschetta pizza. The bruschetta pizza, Italian style with the ricotta, the garlic, the onions, the basil. Finalize it with a little bit of that beautiful oil on both of them. Believe it or not, the German pizza actually can get a little bit of oil for flavor. And we've got these two gorgeous deep dish French crust baguette pizzas brought to you by Unique Recipes from Newburg Deli. I'm Mario, chef and cook at Newburg Deli, and your friend in the neighborhood. Come on by and see us sometime. I wish you the very best. I look forward to seeing you next episode. God bless you, and God bless America.